Good morning, my name is Olivia Bennett and I'm here with the CHS Current Events broadcast, keeping you in the loop. So today we'll be speaking with our very own French teacher, Mr. Cohoon, about our recent transition to CBE learning. CBE stands for Competency Based Education. It is an educational system in which students can focus on their own needs at their own pace. All right, we're here with Mr. Cohoon. He's our French teacher here at the high school, and we're just going to ask him a couple of questions regarding competency-based education. So, Mr. Cohoon, what does CBE look like in your classroom?
Well, that's an interesting question because in any given period, it actually might have several different looks. You might walk in at one point and there's a traditional class going on just like any other classroom where it's whole group instruction. And then 10 minutes later, you might come in and students are working independently while I'm pulling them individually back to the table to review scores with them and have them fix mistakes and things like that. And then at another point, it might be just small group instruction, 3 or 4 back at the table practicing something that they're having a problem with. And in French 3 and 4, which is combined, honestly, sometimes it can look very messy like today because we have 2 classes and then we have individuals who are in different spots in those classes. So it's a lot of going from one topic to another, one student to another. It can be very messy, or it just has a lot of different looks.
So generally, as far as I'm aware, when you think of competency-based education, there are different competencies, and in order to move on to your next topic, you have to meet one competency and then move to the next. Do you write those competencies yourself?
The overall competencies we wrote as a department, so the Spanish and the French used the same 5 competencies. The individual topics or learning targets are actually created by the individual teacher. So I did create those for my French classes, and they're aligned with the National World Readiness Standards, which is also what Illinois, the state of Illinois adopted.
That is actually super interesting. So I'm very curious, what is the most difficult part of teaching a competency-based education class?
For me, I would say it is the record keeping and the organization, because there tends to be so much going on at any given time that keeping on top of what students need on any given day and what exercises we should be doing and what review we should be doing can be a little bit challenging. You really have to stay on top of it. You have to stay on top of your grading and your scoring. Also, sometimes it's a little bit tricky when you have a move-in student from a completely different school and a non-CBE school, trying to kind of figure out what they've already learned and assign them scores and get them to be right where they need to be, because that's what CBE is about, is being right where you need to be, right when you need it. So.
Now, I think we can all agree that that sounds very stressful. How do you manage to stay organized?
Well, I would say that Empower helps a lot just because of the way the scoring side of Empower is set up. I think that's one of Empower's strengths. But the other thing is keeping up on grading, keeping up on scoring, and going over the scores and adjusting your lesson plans every single day and every single morning. So that's usually what I do to kind of keep up on it, is I'm constantly reviewing data.
Oh, wow. So how do you see your students benefiting from CBE learning?
Well, I think the best answer to that question comes right from the students themselves. It turns out that a couple of days ago, I overheard a couple of seniors. I was semi-eavesdropping on their conversation, but what they said, and they didn't intend for me to hear this, they were getting ready to do an assessment, and one of the students said, what I like about CBE is I have to know the material. I can't fake it. I've got to actually know the material and prove it. And then the other student to whom he was talking to, and they were whispering when they said this because they didn't really want me to hear it, but I did overhear it anyway. And he said, and the other thing I like is if I do poorly on a test, it doesn't obliterate my grade because there are retakes on it. And just this morning, I also heard another student say, I don't have the test anxiety in this class that I do in some of my other classes, because I know that if I don't do well on the assessment, I'm going to get a chance to retake it. So I guess the way it really helps the students is for them to figure out that learning is a process, and to be able to make mistakes and not be penalized for them, because learning is a process. So they get what they need at that time, and they get multiple chances to prove that they can do it.
Okay. Well, as you may know, this year, CBE is not the only transition that we've made. We've also started a new block schedule. So each day we will have different classes. We have A days and B days with 4 different classes on each day, and they alternate. How would you say that our block scheduling complements CBE learning?
I think it complements it perfectly, and I can tell you that the block schedule has completely changed the way I operate CBE, because I used to be doing it in a 45-minute block, and it was very intense. You couldn't get a whole lot done. In a given block period, though, I can instruct, we can practice, and I can actually pull small groups and individuals and go over mistakes that they've made, or go over things that they've done well, whereas that just wasn't possible in a 45-minute block period. So I think all of the tasks that need to be done in a CBE class can actually be accomplished, or at least most of them, in a block period where they couldn't in a 45-minute period.
All right, well, we have a huge thanks to offer to Mr. Cohoon here today for speaking with us. We have one more question to wrap things up. What is one thing that you think that parents should know about CBE?
I think that on the parent side, what they can rest assured is that their student is actually learning, because in order to actually get a mastery score, the student has to prove that they have actually learned the material. But at the same time, they need to know that their students are allowed to make mistakes and to progress through that learning, figure out what they're good at, what they need extra help with, and they're not on a time schedule in terms of you have to know this material by X date or you're just failing. So they get multiple chances to prove their learning, and I think that that's probably what the parents need to know about it.
Okay, well, thank you so much for speaking with us, Mr. Cohoon. Have a
Thank
fantastic day.
You too.
We will also be speaking with our Assistant Superintendent, Kristen Holly, about CBE. She's in charge of CBE, she's organized it, and she's educated students, parents, and faculty on what CBE will look like for our school district. This is our Assistant Superintendent, Kristen Holly. Let's welcome Mrs. Holly. We're just going to ask her a couple of questions regarding CBE learning. So Mrs. Holly, what role do you play in Charleston School District's transition to CBE?
So I'm Assistant Superintendent for Student Services, so in my role I oversee everything that has to do with curriculum and instruction in the district, and so I am overseeing all the implementation efforts with CBE, and it's been really exciting. I'm happy to be part of it.
All right, well, we're very happy to hear that. As far as we're aware, you recently held a CBE night here in the Media Center. I know that you went to a couple of different schools to speak about CBE.
Yeah.
Would you mind telling us what sort of information you shared with the parents?
Sure. So I explained to the parents, I really wanted to give them an overview of what CBE is and really help parents understand why we're doing this and how it's going to be so beneficial for students. I think right now we have a lot of misconceptions and a lot of maybe just misunderstandings about what it is. So for me, I've been going to all the schools just to try to help parents understand what CBE is. Most importantly, help them understand the grading and scoring part, because that's probably what we get the most questions about. Everybody's very nervous about what their grades are going to look like, of course, especially for high school students, because it means something. So I've tried to explain a little bit about how scoring and grading works, and just give them time to ask me questions, and they've gone really well. So I'm happy to have some parents that have shown up and been engaged in that process.
All right, well, thank you so much for that. The point of our story is to just inform parents about CBE, what CBE looks like, and why you shouldn't be scared of CBE for your child. And we were also wondering, so how do you see CBE affecting the overall success of our student body in the future?
Yeah, that's the most exciting part for me, is that I just think this is going to help you all as high school students especially, but all of our students be prepared for the future. Not that we weren't preparing you for the future before, because we know we were, but in traditional education, students leave school with some gaps in their learning. It's just part of it. Students advance through the grades and may have missed some skills here and there, And in a CBE model, the goal is for everyone to learn all the most important standards and get everything they need. At the high school level, this exact thing is why we're doing CBE. So you all have experiences, real life opportunities to practice some things that you might want to explore for your future. We also find it's helping students with time management. It's helping students with some goal setting and being able to advocate for their own learning and just knowing themselves as learners and knowing what their strengths are. And at the high school, we're trying to develop more hands-on experiences, so getting students to do internships, getting them out of the building a little bit, getting them some unique opportunities to learn instead of just sitting in a classroom, because we know that's not everybody's preferred way to learn. It's the best way to learn by practicing and doing things. So we're excited about all the opportunities, and I know we have students that have graduated recently and they're able to tell us that they have seen how CBE classes have helped prepare them for the future.
Great. So with all of the possible opportunities with CBE learning, do you see CBE learning becoming the standard form of education for our Charleston School District?
I do, and I see it being the future for other school districts. In fact, this is the wave of the future for all schools. You can see this is growing throughout our country, but in Charleston, my hope is that it continues to grow. We're hoping by 2024 that every class is CBE and that all of our students get to experience the benefits of the CBE classrooms and the initiative overall as a school district. We should be able to see all those results and hopefully start seeing results in our students overall, just everybody seeing benefits. So we're looking forward to seeing that happen.
Sounds great. And if you could tell parents one thing about CBE, what would you let them know?
I would tell parents to not be afraid of it, that it is different, and that's scary. Change, I recognize that change is scary, especially because it's not the education we all grew up with. It's a little bit different. But keep an open mind, be ready to learn, and know that we're doing this because it's personalized learning for every student. This has a benefit for every single student, whether you're struggling, whether you're an advanced learner, and everything in between. And I think it's important that parents keep an open mind, but also if they have questions or concerns, they should call. They should call a teacher, they should call me, they should call a school administrator, so that they don't worry about things. I'd rather people call and let us answer questions and help reassure them that it's all going to be okay.
Okay, well, thank you so much, Mrs. Holly. This is all that we have for you today, but thank you for your input.
Thank you so much, Olivia, for having me.
Have a fantastic day.
You too.
In summary, CBE is designed to give students full understanding of concepts and to give them opportunities that they wouldn't have otherwise. Thank you so much for watching.